Welcome to Beyond the Bar podcast. I'm your host, Denise Satova, bringing real talk and personal conversation with some of our top legal minds. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any captivating episodes because we have a truly remarkable lineup. So, in this episode, I have an absolute honor of welcoming a terrific guest, a distinguished divorce attorney, and a founder of an inspiring nonprofit organization, Stephen Gassman. Now, you can check out Steve's complete bio in the description below, along with the contact information and links. So, Steve, welcome to our podcast.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, you're not only a legal powerhouse, but also an accomplished author and a lecturer. And I have to say, when I first moved to New York, which was several years ago, from Denver, I would hear about the legendary Steve Gassman. And I also heard you speak. I know you've attended a couple of my webinars, and when I heard you speak, you were giving, I think, case law updates. This was pre-COVID, and you were so calm. You were calm. You were going through this. It was a pretty extensive law updates, and you had judges and other lawyers who were taking copious notes. And I thought to myself, the best way to get to know the legend is to have him come on my podcast and get really personal. And better yet, you said yes. So why don't we dive right in and get to know the person behind the legal brilliance? So let me ask you this, Steve. Amidst this accomplished career, legal career, what were pivotal moments or experience in your life that sparked your interest not only to become a lawyer but a divorce lawyer?
Okay, well, thank you for the kind words. And there are people who would take issue with the legend bit, but we'll leave that alone. Uh, you know, it really started. I went to law school, some would say the old-fashioned way. I worked full time during the day. I went to law school at night. I worked in a law office on weekends. And I was married and had a child at the same time. They were kind of hectic days. But I was assigned the matrimonial cases by the law firm I worked at the time. And I really got to like it because it didn't just have the human element, but unlike what most people think about matrimonial lawyers, that they just deal with hysterical people and, that type of thing. It's really a sophisticated branch of the law because in addition to the body of matrimonial law, you have to really be versed in so many disciplines. You have to know, as you're familiar with, uh, financial acumen has to be very high. You have to know bankruptcy law to a certain degree, criminal law to a certain degree, and many, many other disciplines. And it also involves trials, which is what I love. And you could hone your trial skills as well. So I chose to follow that. And that's what made me a divorce lawyer. And it's been going on for about 50 years now. So
Wow. Did I hear you say that you still love trials?
I do. But even trying cases during the summer, which I really don't like to do normally, but so what? You know what happens. Um, and
Hmm.
it's not that we look
What?
to try a case, but some cases have to be tried. That's it.
Yeah.
You
No.
have to be
That's
ready to
you know
do it.
that you have to be ready. That's
Of course.
I admire that. I mean, that is a special set of skill set and I think mindset too, because that's you have to be super prepared. I mean, what is it about doing the trial? What is it about that still? I don't know if it gives you a thrill. Maybe that's strong description. But what is it about it that after so many years you still enjoy it?
Well, first of all, there's the element of competition. If you're a kid and played sports and you were competitive and so forth, you grow up and that element of competition is still within your bones, so to speak. And so you're there, someone wins, someone loses. There are various degrees of wins and losses, but there's the element of competition. Secondly, you're fighting for your, and most importantly, you're fighting for your client's cause. You try to settle the case. If you can't, someone's relying upon you for the rest of their life in terms of their financial well-being, the custody of their children, or whatever issue is extant in the particular case. It's an awesome responsibility, and you mentioned the word prepare. That's really the key. Preparation, preparation, preparation. It's endless. It really That's the key to it. And you hone
Wow.
your skills over the years, and there's talents in being a trial lawyer. When um, some lawyers have it innately to a certain degree, others develop it over time, but you know when it's there. So,
Wow, that's yeah, that definitely it sounds to me like you enjoy uh the growth, the intellectual challenge.
well, I do, and you mentioned teaching and seminars and writing. That's a labor of love to me, and I've been doing it for all these years. Uh, it not only forces me to keep up, which is a great advantage, but I just love teaching, and I've done literally hundreds and hundreds of seminars, um, and I keep doing them. I enjoy it. They're fairly well received, fortunately, so I keep going. Um, and it's in all aspects. It's evidence, it's case updates, it's trial practice, etc. Of all aspects of what a matrimonial lawyer should and should not do.
That's amazing. So it's constantly, staying on your toes and learning because things continue to evolve. And then you're dealing with a huge level of unpredictability, the human emotions, and that's a completely different layer. If you're dealing with, you have all sorts of personalities, and being able to manage people's expectations, and when they're so charged emotionally, so it goes beyond focusing on the economics and the property division and the parenting issues. That's really one of the reasons what inspired me to do these podcasts too, because there is so much support out there for divorcing people, folks who are going through it, to make sure that they take care of themselves. And I don't know
Well,
how
well,
much
here's the
there is for practitioners.
well, here's the challenge. You're generally seeing people at their rawest form. I mean, to many, many people, going through a divorce is the most emotionally traumatic episode of their life. So you're dealing with them in that situation, and yet you have to make decisions that will affect the rest of their life, both financially, in terms of their children, well-being, and so forth. It's a hard mesh sometimes to take someone an emotional high and make these really life-changing decisions, and that's the challenge to do that. And sometimes you have to wait until the emotions subside, and then things really fall into place.
Yes. Now, stepping outside of work, because you're like an energizer bunny. You keep going. So this doesn't actually come as a surprise. But about 30 years ago, during your tenure as the president of the Nassau County Bar Association, I know you initiated a remarkable charitable initiative known as the We Care Fund. And I actually heard the video, and you mentioned that you had two goals. One was to give back and to improve the image of lawyers, which was a second goal. So, Steve, what drove you to start this? And then 30 years later, if you were to fast forward, how have you met both of these goals?
Okay. You've described what really is our mission statement. The first, of course, is that lawyers collectively are a fairly privileged group, and we owe it to give back. And this was a vehicle by which we could give back. It's the charitable arm of the Nassau County Bar Association. The first year of its operation in 1989, it won the award from the State Bar Association as the best new program of the year statewide. It's been copied by many bar groups throughout the country, and that's credit to us, I guess. And that's been enormously successful. That end of it, we've raised millions and millions of dollars. We have scholarship programs. We feed people at Thanksgiving who can't otherwise have a proper Thanksgiving meal. Um, we help victims of domestic violence, and the list goes on and on. We give out many grants to other charities, plus we have our own independent programs. The second one is a little more interesting in a certain way. At the time that this evolved, there was a tremendous amount of lawyer bashing going on. You heard, lawyer jokes were in vogue, and lawyers were being bashed left and right. And we
Yeah.
said, let's try to do something about improving the image of lawyers. One lawyer does something in a wayward way, it gets a lot of publicity. 100 lawyers do good deeds, and nobody knows. And that we set out to correct. And I think we've made a decent dent in that. We've have so many community related projects that the communities have been to the bar association. They see what we do. They appreciate what we do, and I think it's made a dent. I don't know if that'll ever cure the problem 100%, but it's gone a decent ways anyway. So
That
those were
is
the two
really
missions of it, and
that
it's
is really
been
terrific to hear.
yeah. If you asked me 30 years ago, will it ever have grown to this point, I would have said no. But there's been so many people involved, and it's just been great. And judges and lawyers, it's not just lawyers. We have a tremendous amount of
Wow.
judges who are active and we care and give their time to helping the underprivileged. It's really been a fabulous
The
program.
more the better. The more
Yeah.
the better, Steve. This is it is a truly wonderful organization. And you know, it's sometimes people who are not being vocal about giving back and what they do make a huge difference. And there are many fantastic practitioners who do exactly that. So I will make sure to post a link to the organization's website
Oh,
below
thank
so
you.
that those, yes, who would like to get involved, and really you should get involved. It is a terrific organization. You know, life presents us with opportunities and unfortunately also challenges and losses. I've certainly had a share of a very significant loss a couple of years ago, and I know you as well, Steve. Can you share more about that and how you navigated that?
Well, I was blessed with a wonderful partner for many years by the name of Rick Kydell. And in January of '06, at 47 years of age, with a wife and three teenage sons, Rick just died suddenly. And on a personal level, mostly in a professional level, and it was a blow to all of us in our firm and to the legal community in Nassau and Suffolk County as well, because he was so highly respected. One of these few people that had no enemies. Everyone was fond of him, respected him, and he was that type of individual. And we've gone on. You don't replace a Rick Idell, but you do move forward and do as best you can, and that's what we've done. And we cherish his memory. We really do. Um, it was tough to deal with, but we did, and you have to.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you do, and there are ways that you can sort of keep our loved ones in a forefront by way of what you do and sort of you know continuing their legacy. That's wonderful, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing that. How, you know, we talked about dealing with emotionally charged situations, and even after I think you said 50 years, that's mind blowing. How
Yeah.
do you reset? What do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Well, I've been criticized for not having enough outside of work time, but I have to put up with that criticism. But when I'm not working, I really, I spend time with my family. I golf and I read, and that's basically most of it. And I enjoy it, obviously. But I think the most important thing is not so much the time that you spend resetting, but the manner in which you reset. I'm kind of blessed that I can work regardless of how many hours a day. But when I go home at night, I compartmentalize. I mean, I
Mm.
shut it off. That's it. I don't talk to me about any cases or what happened, and I could shut her off till early the next morning. And I think that's an invaluable tool to maintaining your sanity, really. Particularly, when you deal in a type of practice that is very challenging. It's consuming at times, but never boring. I'll tell you that. It never is.
Would you even know what to do with yourself if you were quote unquote retired, if you couldn't practice a
I'm
law,
asked that.
teach a
I'm
law?
asked that constantly, and I say to people, I have no desire to retire. I guess there'll come a day I'll have to, but I have absolutely no desire. And I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, you could play golf a couple of days a week, that type of thing, but you know, I just couldn't even imagine it, frankly. And I'm glad I don't have to face it right now.
What makes you laugh?
People, uh, sometimes intentionally because they want to be funny, and a lot of times unintentionally, unwittingly, and we see it every day. I mean, the only way you get through things like this, in this type of practice, I think, is the ability to, laugh from time to time and laugh at yourself as well. If you're taking yourself too seriously, none of us are inventing the cure for cancer or, you know, developing a plan for world peace. Wish we could, but we're not. And, sometimes you got to put things in perspective. And if you laugh at what you do, I've had this discussion with judges, even during trials. There's a moment of levity, and the judge will sometimes explain to the people that, it's not that we don't take your case seriously, but if we don't have a moment of levity once in a while, we're going to go crazy, uh, because we're dealing with really important aspects of people's lives. There's no question about it. So,
Yeah, and it's almost like bringing them back to the simple moments, when at one point
yeah,
they you would think they loved each other and they used to laugh. And you're right, we get caught in that personal mind, the ego driven, mind, and it just keeping it simple, staying in a moment. That's why, I like a balance of these talks, just to kind of just flowing with it, because that's what life is about. And it's not all about practice, but I am like you, Steve, where I love what I do, and it has many different facets to it, because you deal with people, and you
right.
can take it in so many directions. Now, you mentioned books. Are there any books that deeply influenced you? What are you reading now?
Well, well, now I'm reading Daniel Silva's new book, The Collector. I've read the whole series. But what's really influenced me, I've made a habit over the years. I read a lot of books about some of the great trial lawyers from different eras, from Clarence Darrow, to Louis Nizer and Jerry Spence, and there's many, many others. And it's just some are self-aggrandizing, obviously, but it's fascinating to read because there's common themes in all of them. Preparation we've mentioned, in terms of trials, and um, the life of a trial lawyer is a very demanding one. You don't set your schedule; a judge sets your schedule, and when you're on trial, that is your life. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, I once tried a case 57 days. That's your life for that period of time. There's not much else, I must tell you. Um, but it's very challenging. And the other thing I think I've learned from these books and watching other really good lawyers is you develop your own style. You can get hints and ideas from other lawyers, but you have to blend it into your style. Otherwise, if you try to copy someone, it comes off as you're copying, and it's not sincere and it's not convincing. So those are the lessons I've learned from the books and watching other lawyers over the years.
Speaking of Yeah, and speaking of lessons, and I know you like to teach, is what what would be a advice that you would give to young professionals, young legal professionals, that you wish someone gave to you?
All right. Well, it's interesting you asked that. a while ago, I was asked to speak at a law school for 3Ls, the people in third year of law school, who were about to embark upon their careers of practicing law. And it was myself and a couple of other lawyers from different disciplines, and we gave them what we considered practical advice. And I said something which was a little controversial, but the dean of the law school approved of it. And I said, look, if you want a job, if that's what this is to you, you go to law school to get a job, get out now. It's a terrible job. The hours are demanding. The work is demanding. You're not going to like it. But if you're looking for a profession where you can, really be as best as you can be, it's a great, great way to make a living, and you'll love it. And that's what I feel about the profession. I see lawyers at both of these levels. I see some that are, they're competent lawyers, but they're going through the motions. It's a means of earning a living, period. And there are others who, are very inspirational. They really achieve to be great lawyers, and that's what I think the young people should do. The other thing is time management, because if you want that work-life balance, you have to develop some skills in time management. A little easier today with the technology that's available. That is, and most important, I would say, if they forget everything else I've ever said, reputation, reputation, reputation. That's the only thing you have to sell. That's it. And if you compromise it, the world's going to know, and to regain it is difficult, if not well nigh impossible. So that's the advice I gave to those young lawyers, and I think it's something to think about.
Absolutely, especially the well, first of all, it's very transparent. You're setting great expectations, and someone you just said after 50 years, I am still embracing it. I love the challenge. I love the intellectual growth. And you must love it. Otherwise, you will burn out. You love it, at least
No,
enjoy it. Yeah,
well, that's how you present.
absolutely.
That's how you prevent burnout. Is you really put your whole self into it, and you have some satisfaction because you're going to achieve things when you do put your whole self into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the reputation, with social media, you have to be so careful because it's
Yeah,
out
of
there,
course.
it will stay out there. So, very, very good advice. Very good advice. You can't take it back.
Uh,
So it's been terrific, Steve, to have you today, and I'm hoping that
Thank you.
you will consider coming back. There's definitely a lot more underneath that surface. I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for being a guest on our show and sharing your story. And that's a wrap today for our captivating episode of Beyond the Bar podcast. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another great episode. Thank you.
Thank you.